succeed, Steve was initially elected by Elk Grove residents to serve as a trustee on the Elk Grove Unified School Board. Subsequently, in November of 2014, he elected Steve to the Elk Grove City Council. In 2015, he was elected by the council to serve as the city's first vice mayor of Asian Pacific Islander descent. Steve's career has put him in the public speaking spotlight on numerous occasions. Tonight, he will tell us how he went from being the shy, quiet kid to the mayor of Elk Grove. Please help me welcome Mayor Steve Lee.
Thank you. First, I just want to say that's extremely nice introduction. I usually don't get that at the city council. It always makes it a challenge to work with a bunch of politicians who really want to speak all the time. So I'm left there tracting back to my traditional quiet Asian boy. But that's a part of my journey that I think it was very, very important. And I wanted to share that with all of you, being that you're in this journey to self-improve your speaking abilities, and so am I. I am no different than each and every one of you. That's being the reason. Probably about 6 or 7 years ago, that's when I started exploring opportunities, and I just didn't have enough. And I discovered the club, and I think you guys were meeting somewhere else. But I just never made it to the club and never joined. Lo and behold, I jumped into the political game, and now I have an abundance of opportunities to speak. But that's not where the story began. The story began about 39 years ago when I came to the United States as a young refugee boy, straight out of the hills of Laos. My journey started with my father's involvement in the Vietnam War. During the war, my father's job was to rescue American pilots that had been shot down in northern Laos. In doing that, he made a lot of American friends. When the war ended, the only other logical place to go would be the United States, where all his friends went back home too. That being the case, 39 years ago, I came to Gardena, sponsored by Catholic Charities. Came to Gardena because Catholic Charities felt that it was important for this Asian family to be amongst Japanese and Koreans, because they probably spoke the same language. Well, that wasn't the case. And so for the young boy who went into the school system, saw other Asian kids, and was completely frustrated because I couldn't understand a word that they were saying. But I learned how to speak English by watching cartoons. And if you listen closely, because I know that all of you are in the business of doing that, you will still sense and see the English as a second language mistakes that I consistently made. My wife is an English teacher, and she makes fun of me all the time. But, in politics, I've learned to laugh with people because that's part of what makes this life beautiful. We laugh at our imperfections, and we grow and learn from it. So I learned to cope with that. I learned to deal with that. And in this journey, when I was thrust into the public school system, I was that quiet Asian boy sitting in the back who refused to talk, refused to raise his hand, because every time he would ask a question, it would be clouded with all these grammatical errors, and the teacher wouldn't understand. And as a result of that, I just learned to be quiet, because less attention means that the teacher won't respond back with another question, and oh no, now I'm in big trouble. But the true story, or the story of this, is really the transition from that into being somebody who just can't shut up. And my wife agrees with that. But I remember in the second grade being targeted by kids who were bullies, and being that I didn't speak proper English, I looked a little different. I was being bullied all the time. And I remember as a kid, I was trying to figure out, how do I overcome these guys that are much stronger, much bigger, and who could make fun of me? And the more thought I put into it, the more I realized that if I'm sitting here thinking about it, I don't think they're thinking about it. So I have an advantage over them. I am thinking ahead of time, try to figure this out. And in the process of doing that, I figured that in order for me to beat them, I'm not going to be able to fight them, but to be quicker with my tongue, to be able to articulate exactly what I wanted to do, what I thought of their bullying, and that was the beginning of me in public speaking. I made it a genuine effort to learn English as much as possible. Made a genuine effort to put myself in front of people and to try to talk and to try to make some sense. It wasn't an easy journey. It certainly was a rocky road because what's worse than speaking in broken English to try to counter the bullies picking on you. And so a little bit further down the line, I remember being in the 9th grade. And I thought about it and I said, well, speaking is so difficult. I don't want to speak. I don't ever want to speak. I remember talking about having the speech class requirement for high school graduation, and it was something that I did not want to do. But then when I sat down with some of my teachers and we had a meaningful conversation, I reflected back to the times in which I was being bullied. And I took it on head on. I took that challenge and I challenged myself to try to perform at a higher level and being able to counter these bullies with language. In deliberating with my teachers, I decided that as part of the challenge for my self-growth, I joined forensics and debate. And that wasn't pretty because I was beaten consistently, in forensics and in debate, and I couldn't figure out why. I couldn't figure out why until I started writing out my speeches. And when I started writing out my speeches, it was clear. It was all over the place. There was no structure, there was no direction. And the moment that I realized that, I said, I wonder if I spend just a little bit more time on it, I wonder what would happen. And that's what I did. So I spent my 10th grade and 11th grade just studying public speaking and trying to understand how I could be better at delivering my speeches and structure of the speeches. And I chose oratory as my event. By the end of 11th grade, I finally made varsity. And I made varsity. That was my big victory in high school. And I said to myself, okay, now I've done it. Now I can rest. And when I made varsity, I stopped speaking publicly. And at that point in my life, it was more about college and trying to prepare for college. And so I shifted gear. I didn't get back into public speaking until my second year at UC Davis. And I realized that there was a Hmong population here in Sacramento. And one of the big issues in the Hmong population was communication with city services, particularly Sacramento police officers that couldn't communicate. And this is during the time where there was heavy home invasions in the Southeast Asian community. They had Vietnamese police officers, but they had no Hmong speaking officers. And so as part of my effort in trying to make the world a better place, I jumped in and got involved in the community and was the coordinator to get the community to step up and advocate on having language interpreters or having police officers that can speak multiple different languages. I wasn't successful. I remember going before city council, remember delivering before Mayor Cerna and being told that there is just no money to address this need. It happened not once, but it happened twice. I wasn't settled at the second time, but it happened a third time. And it wasn't just with this board, but it included the Grant School District, it included Sacramento City Unified School District, and it's all about language access and about giving the community their fair share of the pie. That's when I took a step back and realized that perhaps maybe being an activist can only be so effective to a certain point. I made a decision at that point in my life that it would be more effective being on the forefronts and being at the decision-making table, more proactive than being reactive to the policies that are being kicked out. That's when I ran for public office in 2002 in Elk Grove Unified. I was unsuccessful, but I took the lessons that I learned and went to law school and graduated law school and came back as a candidate for school district again. And whatever it was, I figured that I probably mustered it all together, and I was able to be successful on the school board, city council, and now I am your mayor. That is my journey to public speaking and what that meant to me, and being a part of a public servant. But I think it is so critical that people be able to voice what their concerns are. City council, city government, our democracy is based on people speaking out. And for this club to continually support those who want to hone in their skills, I applaud you. And I'm pleased and honored to be here, to be sharing with you some of my thoughts on how important it is to learn how to speak publicly and voice your opinion.